18 great artists, and we're talking about El Greco, and just want to show you the plan here, okay, real quick. So these are, as I've shown you before, these are the 3 example pieces that are in the binders for you to use in class. You're welcome to bring in others if you want to. This first one, and it doesn't really matter which order you show them, but this one is perhaps his most famous piece, The Burial of the Count of Orgaz. And it's an incredibly detailed, there's a lot going on here, so there's a number of things you could talk about, but perhaps the first thing is that just the use of contrast, right? So there's areas of really bright colors and then areas where it's much more subdued. And one of the things that El Greco was known for was this just really bold use of color. There's lots of contrast, and then also these elongated figures. So both the color and elongating the faces and figures and the expressions that they have his style is more about emotion and telling that story, right, by adding in more emotion and drama to the artwork. Less about when we've just studied Michelangelo, who studied anatomy and wanted to be really particular about getting those proportions just right. El Greco was more about the emotion, and so it took liberties to make the figure longer or exaggerate certain parts. So he was adding more of his own style to the artwork versus working on getting things perfectly accurate as to how they would be. Not as concerned about realism, more about the style that he was going for. So this is his most famous piece, and there's the use of how he used color, this bright gold here, and then kind of draws our eye around the piece by using that color selectively, so that there's some over here, and then we kind of see these faces, and then we follow the gold up here, and there's gold highlights up here too. And everything else is pretty subdued, very somber. This is a burial here, okay? Here are 2 of his other pieces, the Assumption of the Virgin, and just this bold use of color here, really dramatic in the fabric. We just kind of talked about that with frescoes of the strong darks to lights to give those folds in the fabric. And the expressions, you can look at very somber expressions. And then this piece, this is the Disrobing of Christ. And so obviously our eyes are drawn right away to this bright red, and then everything else is very kind of subdued in the back. There's lots of face and expressions, where they're looking, what else is going on. You can kind of follow eye lines to kind of see that story here. Okay, so we're talking about proportion. Because he exaggerated proportions, so we're going to talk about what correct proportion is and then have an opportunity to draw an exaggerated proportion. So we can, as I mentioned at one of the last meetings, is that the human body is usually, average, is 8 heads tall, and so that's what you have here. They're the same thing. This is just a really simple stick drawing, and then we can add in longer ovals to make kind of those thicker muscle shapes to make it look going from here to here, to make it more human looking, but even starting simple here. So if we even just line this up, you can do this with your class. You can line up the top line here with the top line of Christ's head there, and we can see that, okay, so this is what the average height of a person would be, 8 heads tall. You can see that and that if you even just use your fingers, right, this head size is about the same. That the person here is still, I don't know, maybe 1.5 times longer. And so to give you an idea of how that is exaggerated, doesn't stand out super obvious because he has this big, large piece of fabric covering him, but that when we compare it to a regular sized person there, okay, so we can see that this is exaggerated. All right, so move those over to the side. This is, talking about proportion and scale too of the face. This is kind of where we're coming off of this from that we've done in previous cycles of talking about those proportions too in the face. So there'll be a copy of this just in a page protector, and this will be in a page protector also. Okay, but we'll start with, so there's two versions. You can choose which version. There's plenty of copies. You can choose which one you would like to do with your students. So here we have just the head, just like in our example we've done before, right? The eyes are in the middle of the face, or in the middle of the head. And then that nose falls just below, just above, that quarter line, and then the mouth, they're very close together, and then the chin, and the ears are just kind of lined up with where the eye line is. And then that hairline comes just above that quarter line from the top of the head, just above there. So it's just over those four portions, right? And the eye line here lines up with the nose. Okay? And you can kind of talk about those proportions. So the difference between these two sheets is that this one has less drawn in. I just have exaggerated where the new top of the head would be and the new chin would be, but keeping those eye lines the same. And then on this one, for perhaps the younger students, but if you want to do this with the older students, that's totally fine too. I've already added in the nose and those points of where the hairline comes, just above where the ears are, and the top of that hairline there, just to help them give more to be able to just connect those. Okay, so I'll just draw this so we can see. Okay, I'm going to just look over here. I already have the nose, and the mouth should be close-ish, closer to the nose than it is to the chin. But the new chin is all the way down here, so maybe I want to do my mouth just above this line, and it's just going to be a curved line, just like our oils, and a curved line the other way. And if they don't like the way it is, they can erase it and do it again, just going slow. And then a curved line to be the bottom. If you want to challenge them and have them do a different mouth expression, maybe a sad one, so the lips would be angled down more, that would be fine, or more open mouth. They could change the expression of whatever they want to do for this exaggerated face. And that kind of separating line in between is just kind of a curvy line. All right, and then I can connect from up here, the hairline where this is. Like over here, it's kind of a gentle curved line down to the chin. And the same thing on the other side. All right, and I can move up. All right, the eyes, I could draw the eyeballs in there, which is just circles. They're dot filled because they're filled in. And then the ears are a curved line over there. Maybe we'll make ours start just about the same place but come down a little bit farther, almost to that line. So a curved line, and I can do some little curved lines inside of there to be that inside part of the ear. And over here, do the same thing, another curved line. Something like that is totally great. All right, and I can draw the eyebrows. So the eyebrows are just above the inside line of the eye, and the eyebrow comes a little bit farther. So I can draw those up here. So you want to, right, we think about our eyebrows moving up if we're kind of exaggerating an expression. So feel free to add more expression. You can continue that hairline, connect those lines. And then the top of the head, connect those down here, okay? So you could see how this looks quite a bit different than that one, but we're getting that idea of just changing proportion of the correct scale and changing that to get a different look. And you could have them add in more details, or like the little hair marks, or add longer hair if they wanted to, but that's one option. And then for this one, you're just going to talk about where to place those lines, which are just the curved lines for the nose, just where those might go. It gives them more to compare to here and find placement here, right? If that, you don't fill up your time with that, you can do the body proportion. There's two options for that too. These are basically the same thing, but this one already has the example of drawing in the circle ovals of the muscles that would fill on top. There's plenty of copies. So you would start by this, and if it helps for the younger students, that you can just see like the head is about the size of our circle, and we will just start with the head, and we draw an oval, which is just a long curved line. And then I'd go down to that where the middle is, And look at the hip area is about the size of a finger too, about the same size as the head. And for the younger students, if it's just easier, just draw a rectangle. That's great. Otherwise, this is a trapezoid, right? This one's a little bit more accurate, where it just is slightly shorter on the top than it is in the bottom, but same size. And then this where the hips would be, where the leg sockets. Okay, so you draw that rectangle right on this middle line between 4 and 5, right? And then we can connect those. Would be like the spine. And then I draw the line for the shoulders, right underneath the head, right in the middle of the number 2 space. Just a little bit wider than that rectangle. And I draw the shoulders where those connect. And then we draw a circle by the 3 down here where the elbows are, and connect those lines. Connect those lines. And then the hands fall just below the number 4, right by the hips, and connect lines. And then we put the knees between the 6 and the 7. Okay, and connect those lines. And if you want, you can put the circles for the hip joint there. And then the feet are down at the bottom, and those are just some curved lines, just for simplicity and this simple drawing, and we'll just connect those down there. Okay? The older students, if you have time, you could have them go over the top of this and add, wider and thinner, thinking about our forearms are skinnier than our upper arms. Connect the shoulders and neck. Right? And connect this down here. Bigger ovals, curved lines, etc. Okay, for drawing the figure. And then you could add an expression. Just as much time as you have, you can have them draw more or practice that. Okay? And that is it. Let me know if there's any questions.